I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. Today, we're going to do a request from Morgan from a band called The Divine Comedy, and the album is Promenade. Now, I remember this request, and it convinced me that we had to review this album. Because this is just one of those albums that is very orchestral in nature, a lot of sprawling songwriting and concept-driven records, and that's why Morgan thought that we would really like this. So, because typically that's my cup of tea, although you like a lot of albums like that. But it very much is that way. Now, I will tell you, the first time I listened to this album, I was kind of taken aback by how crazy theatrical and flamboyant it is, as we were just talking about, Tom. And specifically, you get to track 3 pretty quickly into this thing, which is called The Book Lovers. Clearly supposed to be pretty humorous, where they just go through all these different artists, and it's like a
authors.
Authors, and a promenade of authors, right? and they you know, make the voices. They'll read the name and then give the voice, and it kind of just goes on for like 5 minutes, and it's funny. And it kind of sets the tone of the type of lyrics that you're going to be receiving for the rest of the album.
Because they are very
theatrical.
Yeah, well,
it's all acting.
I was going to say literal, but I meant like literature. Yeah. Like literary. There's the word I'm looking for.
He's an English major.
I have a degree in English, so I ate that song up. There was a few of them that just made me laugh out loud. Man. And I mean, but it shows you what kind of a guy Neil Hannon, the brains behind the Divine Comedy, is. And it's just some interesting trivia. I mean, this album came out in 1994. So in context, you know, you got this British artist, 1994. That was like the height of the Britpop scene. That's when Blur's Park Life came out. Oasis was getting started, you know, with Definitely Maybe, their first album. And then you've got Divine Comedy, which is just so off kilter, and it's still British and it's still pop, but it's so much more than that. And you've got these huge string arrangements, which I think are highly impressive, especially considering this. Neil was like 24 when this came out, and this was like his 3rd album. So wow, raw young talent right there. And I mean, what's funny is the closest comparison I could make to this is Final Fantasy album we reviewed a long time ago, He Poos Clouds. I feel ridiculous saying that album title. God damn it. But it's actually somewhat similar, but only this came out like 12 years before. So, I mean, when the closest things I can think of in the pop and indie world to this came out years later, that tells me that this was ahead of its time and quite groundbreaking, even if there wasn't the populace to appreciate it.
And I actually really enjoyed this album overall because of all those things that you just said. And particularly, I really like how this album unfolds. I find that tracks 9 through 13, you know, the last track, I find are all very strong, and actually stronger than the beginning, which that's where The Book Lovers is, which I'm sure is going to be a standout track for 90% of people. I did notice that you did not pick it too, which surprised me, actually, considering your English degree. Be that what it may, you know, I feel that a lot of the stronger songs are on the back end, which I love it when albums do that, because it gives you incentive to listen to the entirety of the album. Now, one thing I do want to say is that the fact that The Book Lovers is such a noticeable track, and it's placed right at the beginning of the album, there's things I like about it, and there's things that I didn't like about it. One thing that I did like about it, as I said, was that it prepares you for what's coming. What I didn't like about it was that you have this gargantuan, memorable track. If I think of Promenade, the song I think of is The Book Lovers. And because of that, it's right at the beginning of the album. So a lot of times I have a feeling that people are just going to listen to that song and they won't listen to the rest of the album because it's so early. I would have liked to have seen it maybe later, but that might have taken away from other things, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. So I don't really know where I sit, and it's really an awful criticism, so I apologize. But overall, I felt like the only other criticism I could possibly throw is that the lyrics, sometimes a vocalist is just so hell-bent on just throwing these just absurd soliloquies at you that it gets a little distracting from the really cool arrangements that are going on underneath. And that's really a minor criticism overall. I'm still feeling pretty strong with this album. I'm sitting around an 80 right now. Tom, where are you at?
I'm going 77.
Cool. Great request, Morgan. Thank you for this. This was it was one of those albums that I'm just really glad that I had a chance to listen to.
And I can see myself liking it more down the road. That's just where I'm at now.
So, and typically whenever you have an album where you really like the back end, I find that it becomes a grower. So hopefully this is that. What's your guys' experience with this album? If you've liked Promenade or listened to The Divine Comedy in the past, please leave us a comment at www.velocitiesofmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesofmusic. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
Tonight we fly.